can you tell us about your emotional and mental, spiritual state during this 2 years of lag time, and what you think could be done better to assist veterans through this lag time?
For me, individually, I was a paratrooper. I did all those risk-taking jobs, platoon sergeant, detachment sergeant, that the military, they have a little timeline. You're supposed to go to this particular school, within 6 years of service. I did all of those things. I made Sergeant First Class from being a Private E1 with no education, no college education when I went in. In November of 1998, I got pinned, and I went in July of '86. So relatively what we call the fast track. My intention was to be a lifer, what we call a lifer, all branches of service, to do my 20, if not more, and then retire.
Right.
It was a devastating blow. It was, I can only imagine what people who are injured in combat go through. For me, it was an injury that came from malpractice. I have no recourse. My little $784 a month is my recourse. I cannot sue that doctor. I cannot sue that hospital. I can, but what will happen is they'll say, we are giving you $784 a month, so that's your legal recourse.
Right.
It's a waste of time. It's a waste of effort to try to sue a military doctor for malpractice in that case. For me, just adapting and transitioning into civilian life was sudden, the sudden impact of it. Having a child that is still financially responsible, you're still financially responsible for, it is an overnight, that first night out, you would think sweet freedom, right? I'm no longer in the military, but you're leaving with these disabilities. You're leaving with this pain and suffering. You're leaving with all these things and stepping into this huge void of unknown. And there really is. My Pueblo was not that skilled. She was relatively new. She was the only one there working all these cases. Fort Riley's an infantry post, so there were a lot of people going through medical evaluation boards, and predominantly for foot problems. And ironically, we didn't have a podiatrist. That's how it worked. Eventually, we did get one. But for me personally, the only thing I could think of to help expedite the process is that you have to keep on top of your paperwork. Do not let them tell you, oh, wait 30 days and you'll get a letter in the mail. You call, you go up to Decatur. You have to do those things, even though it's expensive to spend the gas money. For me, it's 100-some miles round trip.
Right.
But you have to go up there and talk to a person, and you write down every single person you talk to when you talk to them. You send things, a certified mail or delivery confirmation. You have to be your own lawyer to a certain degree. When you get to a certain place within filing for your disability with the VA, you can get through the what is it called, DAVE, Disabled American Veterans. You can get a lawyer that will help you pro bono, but you have to be at a certain percentage rated by the VA. How can you get to that attorney when the VA hasn't even rated you? And it takes a long time. And their excuse is, they tried to tell me we did not receive the paperwork when I hand carried it and had them date stamp both copies. And when they opened my records, there it was. So and I walked through their office, and you would the stacks of medical records are higher than the desk, than the furniture.
Right.
It's piled up against the wall, and you're somewhere in that stack. So, and they don't take anything, and no one is, it's by date. So that's how that system works.
Now that you are in the Veterans Administration system, can you rate that system for us and tell us your difficulties of navigating that system, and if there's any other shortcuts to veterans that will be returning home that will perhaps watch this video?
I wish someone had told me about the VASR-D, which is the Veterans Affairs Schedule for Rating Disabilities. And you go to this VASR-D, and the website is www.warms.va.gov/bookc.html. You go to this book, you look up your injury or injuries or illnesses. It encompasses physical injuries, it encompasses mental diagnosis, and you look at what the different percentages are. Say for instance, like one injury, if your range of motion is within a certain parameter, you'll get 10%. But if your range of motion is in a higher, lesser degree that you have, if you've had more dire of an injury than what's adequately reflected in your records, then you get the 30% and you're retired. The problem is that the VA sends you for physicals. When they finally open your case, they send you for physicals. And if your doctor, whoever evaluates you, doesn't use what I call that magic language by that rating disability, then you're going to get the lowest rating possible, which is 0%. Now, even if you're 0% rated and it's considered service-connected, you're entitled to your medications, you're entitled to all these things. But if you're 50% or more, it's 100% free. You could walk in with the flu, and so how do you get that? Well, the VA, what they do, let's say you have 4 disabilities, 4, back injury, an arm, you've lost an arm, things of this nature, use of a hand. They will rate each one individually. Then they will take the highest 2. Let's say you got 30% for one and 20% for the other, and they will give you the 50%. Even though it may add up to a total, and this is something I went through, it added up to a total of 100%. But they said, no, we're sorry, we do the top two, and I got 70%. So, you need to be aware of that. And no one told me that. So here I get this letter in the mail that says, I'm adding it up, I got 100%, great, finally. And there's other benefits that go along with that. When you reach 100%, your children get educational benefits when they go to college, things of that nature. Again, the same thing with the VA. Any medical care you need is provided. If someone had told me that you need to communicate to your doctor that this pain shoots down your leg, so to balance it out, to make sure that the right information is reflected, because these doctors who do the physicals are contracted through the VA, and they don't ask these questions. They didn't ask me, does it radiate? Are there times where you're, having muscle spasms to the point that it's paralysis, and there is no range of motion? No one asked those questions. So if you don't know to bring it up in the physical prior to that physical, then you're going to suffer the consequences of waiting like I did. It took 4 years and about 9 months for me to finally get rated adequately. And when they did rate me adequately, I've been out of work since May of 2004. They backdated it to the day that they received the paper where I said I want to be considered for fully unemployed until I'm rehabilitated. So, you got to be aware of that too. They like to play this date paperwork game.
Right.
But I was able to go back and I had my, like I'm telling you to do, is have it lined up by month of what you submitted and when, have them date stamp it or certified mail, and you keep that on file. And I was able to go back and say, no, excuse me, I told you back in May of 2004. So what they do is they open up another claim, and you have to wait however long it takes. And that's what the VA will tell you, it takes however long it takes.
Right.
So at least I have my justification to reopen a claim. You never, ever, ever give up your original document of anything when you're facing a medical board. Even when you're still active duty, never give up the original of anything, because that comes into play later on. They look at what you were discharged for.
And they lose a lot of stuff.
They conveniently lose a lot of stuff.
Yes,
or like I said, I was stationed in Kansas. I returned home to Georgia. Even though the address showed a Georgia mailing address, they used my address at Kansas, my last residential, and it says old address, new address. And some clerk just did not look at the new address part, and for a year I was lost in the system because of that. Can you imagine a year of, you get $5,000 and you're waiting on your $500 a month to come in and supplement your income and help with getting the medications that you now require,
right.
And it never comes.